All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show. I know you're probably wondering, where was the episode on Friday and what the heck is going on with the lighting? Well, there's been a little bit of issue in my dorm room. I don't have a main light source right now. It's other than this lamp, which is right next to me. My main light in my dorm went out on a couple days ago. And Friday I was not around and I didn't have time to make a video. So what's going to be going forward is today's video was the start of a two-part series. And what I mean by two-part series is today's video will be the AFC full season review from the NFL season. We're doing the AFC today because I was thinking about possibly making this into one video, but I don't think I would have enough time to go into each team deeper. So today, on Tuesday, will be the AFC video. The NFC video will be recorded, I think, tomorrow and posted for Friday, since I'll be moving around again. And then next week, I will say this now, next Friday's episode is planned to be the Formula One season preview, because March 2nd is the first Formula One race. So, just for reference, that's next week, which is a vibe, because I can't wait for Formula One. For those who remember, we did talk Formula One last season. We did. But I'm going to record the video on Thursday, because I think qualifying is on Friday. So I don't want to give a season prediction before qualifying or during the qualifying. I'll find how good some people already are. So just giving the reference now, next Friday's video, the F1 season preview, will be recorded before Bahrain. It'll all be set out. I'll give my full season predictions, who I think is going to be good, who I think is going to be trash. Will I have another McLaren prediction like I did during the the Miami video, Miami podcast with Rome? How bad is it going to be? Stay tuned for next week. So how it's going to work this week is Tuesday and Friday, are going to be NFL season review. AFC today, NFC on Friday. Tuesday is going to be a full weekend review of the Prem, the Champions League, and any other small things that have gone on. And then the following week, we'll start talking more March Madness stuff, who to watch out for as conference championships come around. I know I have to do the NHL. I know I'll try to maybe focus it on the NHL trade around trade deadline time if the trade deadline hasn't happened. I don't think it's happened yet, so I'm just trying to get all my stuff around. But yeah, so how it's going to be going forward. Next Tuesday, I don't have a precise video topic yet, but we'll see. And one like equals one less hour I will have without a main light source. So yeah, I know it's going to be a little bit awkward. I already know the next video will be like this, but with me in a different shirt. So without further ado, let's begin. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each team, and we're going to give a quick season review, what they did, and maybe give them what could happen to them in the off season. And we're going to go division by division, starting us off with the AFC East and the team that finished in dead last, the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots, we all knew in the beginning of the year that they were going to be a mess. They didn't have a main wide receiver. Their quarterback was Mac Jones, who had a lot of questions about him before the season started. Was it going to be him? Was it going to be Bailey Zappi at one point? And the season went, well, I'll put it like this. It went a little bit worse than expected. And what I mean by that is, if you look at how the Patriots started and ended, you already knew this was going to be a disaster. But you didn't think that right out of the gate, because they went out and lost to the Philadelphia Eagles by 5. You follow that up by losing to the Dolphins, only by 7 points, which is fairly respectable since it's the New England Patriots. They followed that up by beating the Zach Wilson-led Jets, who we'll be going to next. And then they got ran off the field by Dallas, and this is when they started to all go off the rails. Then they lost by 34 to New Orleans. They got lost to the Raiders after we all know what happened with the Raiders game. Then they beat Buffalo because. What's stupid is that half of New England's wins were, I believe, against divisional opponents. I think, two of their 4 wins were against divisional opponents. To continue this spree of weirdness, the Patriots eventually had a stretch where they lost to 2 teams by combined, 9 points? 7 points, apologies. And then they lost to the Chargers 6-0, which was not the lowest scoring game of the season. We thought it was. Then they beat Pittsburgh. So to make it even more confusing, New England beat 2 playoff teams, Denver, and a team that should have been in the playoff conversation in the New York Jets. But, I mean, they were in the game against Buffalo somewhat on the second to last week. Then they got ran out the field by the Jets. Just the first time the Jets have beaten them in, forever. But for New England, they're a mess. And some things will be changing. You know that Jerome Mayo is going to be their head coach next season. I think they have to address a couple of questions. First, who's their starting quarterback next year? You would assume that they would probably try to move Mac Jones. They would try to, I think, keep Bailey Zappi, unless he's going to ask for a lot of money whenever he becomes a free agent. Listen, I think I think Gardner Minshew would fit well for them if they don't get the quarterback that they want. Do they go out and get their elite receiver early and sign Gardner Minshew before the draft? The problem, I just have to bring this up. The problem with mock drafts is, I'm just going to say this now, because we are going to be doing, there's a possibility, this is the other thing I forgot to announce, there's a possibility that I might be doing 3 episodes on this channel a week in March. It might not happen, I'm still thinking about it, which would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because one of the days will be a shortened mock draft episode, just to give you an idea of that. That might happen in late March, early April to go till the draft. I don't know about that yet. Just proposing the idea. The Patriots have options. Do they go Marvin Harrison? Do they go with possibly Drake May? I think Drake May would fit very possibly well with New England. I think Marvin Harrison would probably be their choice. But I think this team is going to be targeting another quarterback, an experienced quarterback in the offseason just to ruin everything. So I think they need to adjust quarterback. They need to adjust wide receiver. I think Ramondre Stevenson is going to be their running back for the future unless they decide to go otherwise. Maybe draft Blake Corum. I think that would be a very interesting move here, would be draft Blake Corum. And just address some other needs on the defense. I know they're possibly going to be losing some pieces. So they're in a very weird situation. There's not really many places to go but up for New England. But they have a while to go because it starts with their quarterback play. And I don't know who is going to be their quarterback. If I give a prediction, we'll save it till the free agency predictions, which will be in March, to where I think some of these people will go. What I do know is I doubt that Mac Jones is the quarterback next season. I don't think it's going to be him. I don't think it's going to be Bailey Zappi. I think it's going to be a third party. And I think a lot of people will agree that it'll be some other third party drafted player, Gardner Minshew, someone like that. Now let's go to the team that finished in third, the New York Jets. They are a mess. And the reason I say they're a mess is, well, we know how this season went. Aaron Rodgers' last four plays total, and then everything just went to crap from there. And the issue with New York was the offense, particularly the offensive line. I think they're going to address this early in the draft. I think the Jets have to play aggressive to go out and get one of the premier tackles in the draft. I know they like that dude from Oregon State. I heard that was a rumor. I don't know why, but yeah, I guess they can draft whoever they want. I think he'll be a stud. The Jets opened the season by beating Buffalo, which made no sense. They followed that up by getting blown out by Dallas, which makes sense. That one made more sense. They lost to New England, and then they got snubbed by Kansas City and the refs. They lost. Kansas City basically had an extra man on the field the entire game. The Jets followed it up by a not great performance against Denver. They beat the Eagles, but they didn't deserve it. Then they beat the Giants, also didn't deserve it. Then they lost to the Chargers, lost to the Raiders, got blown out by Buffalo, that hurt. Then they lost on Black Friday to the Dolphins. We all know what happened there. We already all know during the season as well as they're doing a whole quarterback carousel, looked like a merry-go-round the whole year. They lost to the Falcons. That one hurt because it was 13-8. And then they played their best game of the season, a game that I had the pleasure of being at, where they played the Texans and won 30-6, which Zach Wilson looked actually competent. They followed it up by losing to the Dolphins 30-0. That'll be the last time I think we see Zach Wilson on this team. They followed it up by blowing a giant lead to Washington and then winning on a late field goal. It looked like I owned a basketball for a minute. Then the Jets lost to the Browns, and then the Jets followed that up by beating the Patriots on the last week of the season. Questions for this team: who the heck is going to be their backup quarterback next year? Because I think they're going to trade Wilson. I mean, they can't cut him. I think right now your priority should be one thing we do know. I'll word it like this: Bryce Huff is going to ask for a lot of money. We heard the rumors of how much money he could ask for. So I don't think the Jets re-sign him. This is where I think Will McDonald will step up next season in place of Bryce Huff. Now, I loved Bryce Huff as a Jets fan. I think Bryce Huff was great. But he's going to want too much money. Jets need to figure out defensive tackle, I think, for next season. I think they need to possibly add linebacker depth. I think they have to re-sign a couple other pieces. Safety, I know, is going to have a hole for next season. I think whatever they have to do whatever they can to address the offensive line. And I think they're going to lose Mekhi Becton, which thank God. We all knew when they drafted him that was going to be bad. They had an all-pro tackle, I think, right afterwards. Tristan Wirfs was right afterwards because Tampa made the play for Tristan Wirfs. But the Jets next year is their statement year, if they have any year to do that. I know that feels like a revolving door, where I'm just saying that because it's the Jets, and a lot of fans feel like nowadays every year is their year. Sound like the Mets, honestly, at this point. Or a Yankees fan, too. Both of them do that. But at the end of the day, this team, with how important it is for players to stay with this team, they have to make the playoffs next year. And if they don't, people will get fired. So right now, what they have to do, they have to address offensive line. I think they have to go all in on offensive line. You have guys like Elijah Vera Tucker and Laken Tomlinson. You have a good center in Tippmann. Everywhere else, the tackles are a disaster. I think so, at least. So I think if you get a guy like Joel from, I think that's his name, if you get like one of the premier tackles in the draft, like that's a win if you get the best one off the jump. Let's look at what, for example, Daniel Jeremiah. Let's look what Daniel Jeremiah says. I like Daniel Jeremiah from NFL.com, NFL Network. Let's just, for example, see what he has the Jets doing in this. Because you hear the rumors, oh yeah, they're going to draft a quarterback. What the heck are you saying? They're not drafting a quarterback. Get that out of your system now, ladies and gentlemen. In this scenario, the Jets, who are at 10, they like Taliese Fuaga from Oregon State. Personally, I think the best, one of the better tackles is Olumuyiga, the Fashanu guy from Penn State. I like him a lot. Joel, who's projected to go to the Chargers, even though I don't think the Chargers should be going for more offensive line when they draft an offensive lineman every year. It feels like that at least now. But listen, with the way this draft can go, I think there's a lot of possibilities for the Jets to possibly even move down and still get the guy they want from Oregon State, Taliese Fuaga, because I don't think there's a lot of teams that I just don't know. I do like J.C. Latham from Alabama. I did like him. He's projected to go at the 14th selection. So I think there's a lot of options here. The Jets just have to find a way to not mess it up. That's the best way I'll put it. Next up is the Dolphins. They don't have a lot. We already know what happened. Injuries destroyed them. They're going to go into this offseason trying to go all in again. And to be fair, they kind of do. The question for them is if they're going to re-sign Tua Tagovailoa, which I think they have to. I don't know if there's a quarterback in this free agency class that will be better than Tua Tagovailoa in the future. You can argue whoever you want. I think they have to re-sign Tua Tagovailoa. We all know how their season went. Collapsed because everyone and their mother got injured. The questions for them I think, are going to be on their offensive line as well. I know they had holes with Armstead getting injured, and there's a couple of bit of pieces here and there. I think they need to get secondary help. I think depth behind Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey will be crucial for them. I think that was a big problem for them this season. I think re-signing Christian Wilkins has to be a must, even though I don't know if they actually do it. You just get the vibe that Christian Wilkins will stay a Dolphin forever. That's just the vibe that he gives me. The Dolphins next season is going to be their all. I think this is their real all-in push, and I think they're going to make a move to possibly draft. Draft a running back or sign someone to be behind Achane. Because I don't know if they re-sign Mostert. Imagine they sign a guy like a Saquon Barkley. That will save their entire team. It will piss off the rest of the running back group because I don't think they want to be behind Saquon Barkley because Saquon Barkley can prove, I can get 25 touches a night. Screw it. I can give you 100%, give you 25 carries for 100 yards every night if I wanted to. Heck, I think the Dolphins might be in the hunt for Derrick Henry. I think that's a possibility as well. The Dolphins need to get, I think, one or two pieces, primarily on the offensive line. Running back, you always use some depth as well. You lose a guy like a Jeff Wilson. You lose Raheem Mostert if you really think about it. You have Achane. You need a power back, I think, though, to help Achane. I really think Saquon Barkley might be their answer, but that would be a very interesting fit if Saquon actually goes to the Dolphins. Because I have a feeling he will leave the Giants because the Giants are not going to want to pay him. So, listen, there's a ton of possibilities for Miami. I think they have a lot of options. Can it all work with the money? I think they might be in cap hell as well. Buffalo. They just can't beat Kansas City. They are going to be targeting secondary help. They kind of have to. You know the injury history now with Tre'Davious White. Rasul Douglas was great. I don't know if I know they're free agent. They have like a couple of big players hitting free agency, I believe. If we look at my sheet here from Buffalo. Yeah, they're going to have to. I think they have to go. They're possibly losing guys like Dane Jackson. Micah Hyde's going to be a free agent. I think they have to get a short-term deal done for Micah Hyde. That has to get done. I don't think there's another option there. I think him, Dane Jackson, Jordan Phillips maybe. Leonard Floyd was decent for them. I think you had to try and re-sign all of those guys. AJ Epinesa, I think could be an interesting re-signing for them. And the big one is wide receiver, I think, for them as well. You have Stephon Diggs. I think they have to target another elite receiver as well. Gabe Davis, I believe, is a free agent. So if they lose him, who is going to be that wide receiver that replaces Gabe Davis? That's just a thought. But Buffalo, they're a piece or two away. Allen proved what he can do. They just need like another piece or two on offense, and they need help in the secondary. And just to stay healthy. This team was so good. They have a lot of good players. They have Von Miller. They have chaos on the defensive line. They have great run stuffing linebackers. They can do it all, this Buffalo team. Secondary help is what they're really going to need, I think, in order to get themselves over the top. I'm thinking a guy like a C.J. Henderson for them will be perfect. So now we're gonna go south, I think. We'll go south first, because this will be a more fun conversation. And to the team that finished last in the AFC South, that was the Tennessee Titans. I think you've seen, their season was a mess. They started, I believe, with Tannehill. And it was Tannehill, essentially. Ryan Tannehill didn't really do much to help this team. You saw the Titans miraculously beat the Chargers. But they beat the Bengals, but I don't think Burrow played. Did Burrow play? Oh, Burrow did play. Fair play to the Titans, and then they beat the Joe Burrow led. They beat the Bengals. Fair play. But this Titans team, they're far away from contending, I think. And the reason I say that is, well, one, I think you might have your quarterback in the future. I say might because he needs to take another step next season in Will Levis. The mailman has a chance, I think, to be their franchise quarterback, but he needs help around him. listen, Tennessee, they have also options. If you look where they are projected in the draft and where this mock draft has them going, if it's a load, this has them going offensive tackle. I think they have to possibly go offensive tackle. I also think they can trade down, but I don't know what they were going to do. You can hope a guy like Malik Neighbors falls, which I think is possible. But with the way this early part of the draft can go, anything is possible for Tennessee. I mean, I really think if Tennessee might be the one team, weirdly enough, to trade down. And I think there will be a team that trades up to their spot to draft like a J.J. McCarthy, even though he should not be going this high. I think there's a lot of possibilities. But they just need to, well, one, they need a running back. They're going to be losing, I think they lose Derrick Henry at the end of this season. Where do they go from here? I mean, they have a new head coach who I think will help Levis, but they need to get other weapons around Will Levis in order for him to even have the possibility to develop in the first place. Listen, I think Tennessee can be really aggressive in the draft. I think they should be really decently aggressive in free agency. I mean, I think Gabe Davis would be interesting in Tennessee. I'm just throwing the idea out there. I mean, why not? What could possibly go wrong? If you have the money, why not try it? I mean, if there's any other ideas I can think of, not really. But in the wide receiver room, let's just take a look at the wide receiver list. Is there a wide receiver here that I think can really, use a change of scenery? Maybe try and step up to be a number one receiver on a short-term deal? And my answer is, you bet there is one. I'm thinking a guy like Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is a very solid receiver. I think if Tennessee finds a way to get Tyler Boyd there, it would be a huge steal. Short-term deal for him. Works with Levis. Calvin Ridley, I think, could possibly be in the mix. I mean, the biggest wide receiving targets, you're going to have your Michael Pittmans, T. Higgins. Calvin Ridley, I think, could even be in that mix. With what the options Tennessee has in the lower echelons of wide receivers, I think they can possibly get some players that you can put around Will Levis that can really develop him. But Tennessee, they're far away. I think they have a lot of room to grow. They have potential. Just the South now. I didn't think I'd be saying this right now because if this division was the way I predicted it, I think Tennessee would be in a much better position. But they're not because everyone outplayed their expectation, I think, this season. Speaking of a team that outperformed their expectations, especially with the way the season started, Indianapolis is next. Now, I had no hope for this team at all. And right when Anthony Richardson went down was when my hope for them vanished. You saw what they did, what Anthony Richardson brought to the table. He went out and beat a team like the Ravens. They beat the Texans. And then Anthony Richardson goes down for the season, and all hope is lost. Little did you know that you would have Gardner Minshew save the team, essentially. Didn't think I'd be saying that, yet here we are. Gardner Minshew really saved this team. I think he's going to be out. I think he's going to get another short-term deal, but a lot of money that will be priced out of Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis, out of any of the teams that are in this division, I think they're the ones that regress the most. And the reason I say that is you're going to have Anthony Richardson. We have no idea how he's going to look next year. You know he's coming off the injury. We'll see how he looks. He's a very solid quarterback prospect. But losing year one like that to an injury, I think it possibly really hurt his development. But I think he has a very high ceiling. I think he has the chances to get there. The biggest question for them is, are they going to re-sign Pittman? I don't think so. But they're going to have to in order for them to even get back to this stage next season. If they don't re-sign Michael Pittman, this team is winning 5 games. Simple as that. They have to have a receiver like Pittman to even have a chance. They have Jonathan Taylor. Their run game is going to be fine. The pass game is what I think is really going to hurt this team more. Because you have a guy who can throw the ball downfield, a guy who can also move around, and he's very tall and physical. You need a receiving core to help a guy like Anthony Richardson be able to use his legs more. And I think keeping a guy like Pittman will really help that. But I don't think they do it. I think Pittman's going to be the ambitious one here. I think he's going to try and go out and make himself a lot of money in free agency, which I think he does. I just don't think it's with Indianapolis because you have to imagine that he's going to get targeted by like Kansas City or someone along those lines. But the Indianapolis, they're bound to regress. I think they do it, but it's really going to rely on, well, one, who's their quarterback? Can Anthony Richardson stay healthy? And what's it going to look like for them next season? Are they going to have a real number one wide receiver? That's my questions for them. In second was Jacksonville, the team that had the incredible collapse. This team is going to probably need some offensive line help. They have to try and re-sign Calvin Ridley, but I don't think they do it. They just need help everywhere. They have to re-sign Josh Allen, which I think happens. I think they're going to be able to re-sign Josh Allen. I think they should have a lot of hope that they can re-sign Josh Allen. The issue is the money. And I think with the way they spent a couple of seasons ago when they got like Christian Kirk and all of them, they spent a ton of money. I think that hurts them here because what are they going to have the cap room to do anything? I don't have the cap numbers in front of me. Let's pull that up. I felt like I should at this point. While I'm loading this up, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I feel like right now, as I load up over the cap, that Jacksonville is a situation where, one, they failed last year. They failed miserably. But they have a lot of room to grow. The issue is that they have $11 million in total cap space. Well, that's going to be fun. So right now, with the lack of money they have, they're going to have, in a couple of years, a lot of money. They're going to have to backload every contract known to demand. I think they're going to be able to restructure a couple of deals. They have a lot of money in the future. They just need to refocus on re-signing people. I'm expecting Houston to regress, and I'll talk about why in a minute. But you have to make a better run. I think they have to get running. I mean, they have ETN. They need another probably offensive line help. Josh Allen has to be re-signed. I just think they need some help in some areas in the secondary. But I think Jacksonville has a lot of potential. Can they re-sign their core players that they need to re-sign is the question for them. Houston won the division. They are bound to regress, but I don't know if that happens. The questions for them are going to be, well, are you going to, or one, Nico Collins and everyone's going to be there. I would assume so. Let's take a look at the Texans, actually, because this is one of the teams I'm going to break down more and more. Houston Texans, a team with a lot of money. A shocking amount of money. They have $54 million. Players they have to re-sign. I would think they would re-sign guys like Dalton Schultz. I think needs to be re-signed. I think they re-signed Devin Singletary. He was pretty good. But I think right now there are ways you can like restructure and do all that can get you more money. I think restructuring Tunzel would be the start to that. That would save you. If you hit the button here, that would restructure the deal to save about $14 million in cap. Titus Howard, I think restructuring him has to be a must too. That could set them up for about $74 million in cap this year. Texans, I think, are going to go all in. They're going to speed run the rebuild, and I love it. If they do it right, this team has potential to go so far. Will they do it right is the question. They need help on defense. I think they need another receiver. This is the better fit, actually, for Gabe Davis. Nico Collins, Gabe Davis, and whoever else I'm missing. I'm missing somebody. I mean, they have so much potential. The question is, can they actually get to that potential? Oh, and Tank Dell as well. Tank Dell, like another stud offensive weapon. Listen, I'm going to take a look at a market that I didn't think I would look at here. Where's the tight end market? I mean, they're going to get another good depth receiver. I think they have to. But tight end, imagine they go out and grab a guy like a Mike Gesicki. Another good receiving tight end. I think if they add another piece like him, reinforce the defense, I think they can really come back and make some noise. This might be an all-in year from Houston. I would be expecting with the money they have. They had a great first season. You have a great quarterback in Stroud. I think people are overhyping him a little bit now, which is not the best thing. Will Stroud be able to keep that level and continue to progress to be one of the better quarterbacks in the game? Or are we going to see a second season regression from Mr. Stroud? That's what I'm looking out for with the Texans. Next up, who do we got? We're switching divisions, and we are going to the AFC North. The AFC North was a very interesting one. Every team over 500. And the team that finished in last was the Cincinnati Bengals. How the heck are they here? And it's going to be injuries. Offensive line has to be a must. It feels like it is for them every year. But along with that, they have so many ads or needs for this offseason. I think they're going to be the biggest ones to possibly regress out of the North. The reason I say that is you have to re-sign T. Higgins. I think that has to be a must. That means you're going to lose Tyler Boyd. Who's that receiver 3 going to be? Once that happens, what are you going to do with the offensive line? You have to reinforce the defense, particularly in the secondary. Listen, I think they could be players for L'Jarius Sneed, all things at the end of the day. But Cincinnati, if they get this wrong, this will hurt them for so long. Like, this could be the end of the way the Bengals have been. Because the reason I'm saying that is the Ravens are going to continue to try to push more. Pittsburgh's going to go for a legitimate quarterback. The Browns had injuries all season long and got the luck of Joe Flacco to take them as far as they did. They're a quarterback away as well, along with a couple other pieces needing to be re-signed. We'll talk about that in a minute. Can Cincinnati come out and be players like the others? I don't think so. Now, they have arguably the top 5 quarterback in the game when healthy. They have a top receiver in the game in Jamar Chase. How are they going to do everything else? Like, they have to prioritize something. And if they get the priority wrong, they're in the bin. Like, they're in deep trouble. Because if they screw this up, oh boy, Cincinnati will be stuck in the basement. Locked up and stored in a corner at this rate. Because with every other team going up in this division, Cincinnati, they need to try and keep up. And that starts, I think, with T. Higgins. But I don't know if they do it. I think he's going to want so much money. It's an interesting situation. You have to re-sign Boyd or Higgins. I don't think they can keep both. But they have to get one of them to stay. In third was the Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers. How are they here? Like, how? Why? It's inevitable that Mike Tomlin goes out and gets a 500 season. They won big-time games down the stretch. The issue I had with some of these is that look who some of these teams threw out on the field. Steelers beat the Bengals. Bengals threw out Jake Browning. Steelers beat the Ravens last week of the season. Look who the Ravens threw out. And the squad and the situation that they were in. They threw out the reserves and saved the Steelers season by throwing out the reserves. And then the Steelers got what they deserved and lost to Buffalo. Steelers question for them, who the heck is their quarterback next year? Now, I think there is a possibility. You have a ton of options. I think so. You have Mason Rudolph. You have Kenny Pickett. I think they might draft somebody in the second round, a guy like a Penix or a Nix. I think that's a very possible situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But are they a quarterback away? They're going to need some reinforcements in some other spots. But they're a very solid group. A better group than I thought. I mean, running back, they're led by Najee and Warren. They have decent receivers, Pickens and Deontay. I mean, this group is better than expected. They just need help on both, help in the trenches. And I think they'll be fine. T.J. Watt also got snubbed. I think he's going to have a big-time season next year if he stays healthy. But I think the Steelers could be players in free agency if they have the money, because they kind of have to. But the way I think the Ravens and the Browns could go push even more, they're in a weird situation. The Steelers are. They're like on the fringe of being really good and on the fringe of being really bad. Because when Pickett went down and you changed quarterbacks, you guys got kind of lucky. And the issue with the Steelers is I just realized this, they don't have a lot of money here. So let's look at this team. You have some interesting pieces that you need to re-sign. With the way I think they can restructure this, say you restructure T.J. Watt. Does that help? Yeah, it does. Saves you about $11 million. If you restructure like Minkah Fitzpatrick, that saves you about 12, so that'll put you in out of the red. Restructure Allen Robinson, you can't even restructure him. There's not a lot of guys you can restructure, and there's not a lot of things you can do. I think you have to try and extend Mason Rudolph, who I also didn't realize was a free agent. I think they have to re-sign some of these other players that they have on the team. Money's going to be very slim for them, much more than I thought. So I think they have a possibility to regress as well. Not as much as I think could happen to Cincinnati, but the positive thing with the Bengals is they have the money to possibly do everything. But I just don't think they have the real capability of doing it, if that makes sense. Just to go back to the Bengals, because I forgot about this, they have to re-sign Higgins, Boyd, Jonah Williams, Chidobe Awuzie, DJ Reader. I don't think you can get all of them. And if they try and restructure people like Burrow, like Hendrickson, that's the only way they can do it. They're in a very weird spot. Both of these teams are. Interested to see how they both play it, of course. But both, I think, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are bound to regress. Somehow. But I still think Pittsburgh will find ways to get to a 500 record again. In second was the Browns, who have questions, of course, as well. If you look at the cap situation, which I should have had up the entire time, and I didn't, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. The Browns are the Browns, and they have, how much money do they actually have? I can't find them. They're in the red in cap space right now. Negative cap space. Yes, sir. So, if I do my restructuring nonsense, let's take a look at what they could possibly, how they could possibly restructure some contracts and all that, because listen, they have potential to be amazing. Say they restructure Amari Cooper. Say they try and restructure Deshaun Watson, which I don't think will actually happen. They restructure maybe one or two of these bigger contracts. You find yourselves in a situation where you can get all the money you need, but it would have to be a one-year show because next year you only have $20 million. So, all things considered, they're in a very weird spot. And to add to the weirdness, they have no money this year. They really have no money next year. I don't know what they can do. I mean, you can't really probably re-sign Kareem Hunt. I think he will leave. You can't probably sign a guy I mean, they're not going to bring Flacco. I think it could bring Flacco back, but there isn't like a major piece that they're losing. Next year that happens. That's Nick Chubb. So they have not a lot of options. Restructure contracts, probably draft everybody. I think they're not going to be able to be big players in free agency because of the money, but listen, this team has so much potential. It's going to depend on if Watson actually can get back to the level he was at. Not a lot to say on Cleveland because there's not really much they can actually do. Finally, we have the Baltimore Ravens. You have to, I'm saying this lightly, they have to go all in. Have to. This is the only team, this is the only way that they can do this. They have no cap space. They have to re-sign Patrick Queen. They have to. It's a must. I don't care what the hell you have to do. Alright. You have to re-sign Patrick Queen. I think they have to do it. I think they do it. The way that they can do it, let's say they restructure a couple of contracts. You can give yourselves the money to re-sign Patrick Queen. I think they might have to trade some people. Heck, I think they could be big players in the draft. And if they draft all the positions they need, they could be negative cap space. But I think they can go out and make some big time plays. Now, I don't know what those plays could be. I don't have the full roster of list of things they can do in front of me. But the Ravens were the closest thing we had to a team beating the Kansas City Chiefs, who we will talk about momentarily. Lamar Jackson's going to keep up the level that he is. How the heck are they going to... What are they going to put around him? They have the weapons. They have Zay Flowers, Bateman, Beckham Jr. Isn't he a free agent too? Huh. Also, shout out to kick returning legend Devin Duvernay. They do have Beckham on a very good wage this season of $4 million. So, listen, I think the Ravens, with a couple of restructures, I don't think they keep Tyler Huntley. I think he's want a lot of money. The running back market, I think, will be interesting for them. I think they're going to have to try and restructure every contract imaginable. I think the big piece they get possibly will be Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry will be a great fit for this team. I think Derrick Henry would be a great fit for every team. But the Ravens, how much they like to run the ball, or they should be running the ball, I think this could work really well for Derrick Henry. Give him a 3-year deal. I'd say 13 to 15 million, possibly more. I'd say give him barely more than what Jonathan Taylor gets. So if you're paying the Jonathan Taylor wage, or the contract to Jonathan Taylor, I think that'd be a very fitting contract. Possibly more or less. But Derrick Henry with the Ravens, that sounds really deadly. I think their two biggest priorities should be re-sign Queen, target Derrick Henry. Receiving core, I think, is going to be fine. I think their defense is fine. What's the deal in the run game? I think that's going to be the big thing for them. Finally, let us head out west. And we're going to start with the team that finished in last. And that was, drumroll, the Chargers? A team I had in the playoffs finished in last in their division. Not great. And they're in a really bad situation. Cap space, pretty much nothing. Needs to re-signing needs. There's one big one. And that, my friends, is Austin Eckler. I mean, they also can re-sign Michael Davis, the corner. I feel like his stats. He played all 17 games for them last season. Had an interception. I think he's pretty good. I think they might have to re-sign him as well. They have to figure out a way to do this with no money. They have to figure this out. You can't cut. I mean, they can cut, but next year you're going to have the contracts of Mike Williams, Asante Samuel, and Keenan Allen all up for grabs. It's a very weird situation to be in if you're the Chargers. Because if you restructure a contract here and there, I mean, wow, this situation is nuts. Because even if like a big restructure here and there, this team will still be in the red in cap space. Chargers are in not a great situation. And what their future can possibly look like, and possibly losing guys like Kenneth Murray, future losses in guys like Khalil Mack, who is old, losing Keenan Allen in the future, losing Mike Williams in the future. This is a very weird spot, and they're going to need this offseason to find a way to develop Quentin Johnston. They have to have it happen, or they are in a lot of trouble. This team doesn't have a lot of cap space. There's zero room for error for Harbaugh. Can he get guys to stay? I think he could. But zero room for error for Harbaugh. I mean, look at the list for next year. I almost forgot to add guys like Josh Palmer, Rashawn Slater, Donald Parham. There are so many good players that the Chargers can lose. Also, shout out to Max Duggan. I mean, this whole situation for them next offseason is nuts. And there's so much that can happen. The Chargers have to find a way next season. The Chargers next season is going to be so crucial for them. Because of the way they have no money, this is going to be insane this offseason. Going to have to try to really throw some money around contract. Are they going to look like the Saints with no money? God, this is going to be really fun to look at. Some say cap space is a myth, but a lot of backloaded contracts is the only way they can really do this. But next year is going to be a really fun year for them because they're going to re-sign all of these players if they really want to keep all of them around. Can they get it done? Only time will tell for the Chargers. They had a really weird season too. I mean, they finished in fourth. They had a lot of potential. A lot of things went wrong for them. Brandon Staley was not the right coach for them, even though he thought he had a lot of potential. Adding Harbaugh, I think, adds a lot, but this team is a mess. Absolute mess. Just like the Denver Broncos, who are next on my list. The Denver Broncos also have no money. Do they have a lot of possible restructures? Yeah, they can restructure their way there. The big free agents that they would need to re-sign, heck, I don't even know who you would even re-sign out of this list. I mean, Will Lutz is a good kicker, but I think re-signing a guy like Garrett Bowles would help. I mean, looking at next free agency, you have to possibly I think this offseason's priority should be re-signing Patrick Surtain. That should be the first priority because of that. But the way they have no money, listen, I think he's gonna be wanted for a lot of money. Signing for, I think he's possibly worth up to 15. I don't even know what the top corner he gets anymore. 15 million at minimum, 5-year contract for Pat Surtain. Heck, I think 5 years, 100 million for Pat Surtain. I think would be fair. The Pat Surtain deal. I mean, with the way some of these cornerbacks can get paid now. I think that's the first. It's a must, absolute must, is re-signing Pat Surtain. Justin Simmons as well, I think, has to be re-signed just because of how good he is, what he still brings to the table. This team is still far away from being like a true contender in the AFC. Their season had a lot of ups and downs. You saw them I think they were the team that allowed 70 to Miami. They were down like that, and heck, I think they were in the conversation, weren't they? I mean, they were a little bit. They finished 8-9, but Denver tried to make a run for it at the end and weren't really that successful. But bottling games to the Patriots, bottling games to they bottled it You go out. I mean, they beat the Chiefs. They only allowed like 13.5 points per game against Kansas City. That's really good. They allowed 19 points one game and 9 the other. That's 14 points a game against KC. But you bottle it by losing games to the Patriots by 3. You get blown out by Detroit. You lose 3 of 4 to take yourselves out of it. They really hurt themselves. I don't know who. I mean, Russell Wilson. Is this the end of Russell Wilson? Because if they cut him, for example, say they cut Russell Wilson, what's this dead cap gonna be like? I mean, this season they cut him post June 1st. I think he could be a post June 1st cut, honestly. Because if he's cut post June 1. You're saving more money. But you're not going to have anything really in the beginning. It's a very weird call. I think they could possibly draft the quarterback this year. And they might have to. Watch out for them possibly getting like Bo Nix or Penix. I think that's a possibility as well. Not a lot of room for error for them either. By re-signing Pat Surtain's a must. They have to do it. I think my priorities for them, re-sign Pat Surtain, figure out everything else. But if they don't sign Surtain, they're really done for. Next up is Vegas, who I had zero hope for in the beginning of the year. And they turned out to be pretty competent. The questions for the Raiders. Well, let's see how their season went, first of all. The Raiders, who finished 8-9. I believe a very modest 8-9. Rattled off a couple wins at the end of the year. They've won 3 of their last 4, only losing to Indianapolis in Week 17 to get them to 8-9. A very respectable 8-9 under new head coach Antonio Pierce. First things first, I am doing this now. They have to cut Garoppolo. They have to. This is not a drill. I ain't messing around. I think they have to extend Josh Jacobs. Just put this contract down. I think he's worth $11 million a year. I think he is. I love Josh Jacobs. I think he's great. I think they trade Devontae Adams. Put that in there. Doesn't save them a lot of money, but I think they can get multiple first-round picks in this deal. Say that happens. I think they have to go out and try and make a couple moves in free agency. If they find a way to keep Devontae Adams, which would be one miraculous, they can be players in free agency. Antonio Pierce looks like a very likable coach. Their future though has a lot of questions. It does. I mean, they need a new quarterback. I think they have to trade up in this draft. Looking where they are in this mock draft, if we go back to our mock draft from earlier, which we haven't looked at in a little bit, the Las Vegas Raiders currently sit, if this will load, I think around the pick 14 range. 13. They're projected to take Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. I think if McCarthy drops, I think they go out and draft J.J. McCarthy because he's better than Aiden O'Connell. But if they really trust Aiden O'Connell, one, I don't think he would fall. J.J. would have dropped past Denver. But Arnold has a lot of potential if they go this route. Just bringing up Terrion Arnold. A corner with the potential, I think, is a great get for Vegas. But they need a quarterback. Who's it going to be? Do they go out and try and get Kirk Cousins? I mean, there's a couple other options. There's not a lot. There's not a lot, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, let's look at the quarterback market. Let's update my thing here for the quarterbacks. I mean, it's literally Kirk Cousins. Baker Mayfield, I feel like, would be an interesting get. I don't think that would be that bad. I think that actually would be pretty satisfactory. Not a lot of room to mess this up. I do think that Baker Mayfield should be targeted by Vegas. Sign Baker Mayfield, I think, would be a good get. Does he fit with the scheme? No idea. But add another very solid quarterback to this division. Think about it. Mahomes, Mayfield, Herbert, and whoever the heck Denver is going to have at quarterback. Just say Wilson for now, but I think possibly Denver could even be in the running for Baker Mayfield. It's going to really come down to who throws the most money out for Baker. Just bring that up. Finally, the world champion, Kansas City Chiefs. Question for them is if they can three-peat. And if you look at their cap situation, let's actually take a look at it, because I don't know where it is. The Chiefs actually have money. But they have two major pieces that could possibly be lost. L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones. Have to sign one of them. You do not have the money for both of them. I think they're both free agents. One thing said it was. Where is he? Oh, he's not a free agent? Hold on. You're telling me Chris Jones isn't a free agent, or is he a free agent? I'm confused now. I thought I saw Chris Jones on here. So over the cap might be wrong. I don't know what's going on. We're going to play this off like Chris Jones is a free agent. Unless I could possibly be wrong, no idea, because over the cap shows him as being part of this team. And then him being a free agent. If they found a way to maneuver around this, I'm going to lose my mind. There's a player to re-sign for them. I don't know. Yeah, this doesn't show them having a contract. Let's see what over the cap says for his contract. So he wouldn't be playing for... I'm so confused. So yeah, just throwing out like... Chris Jones has to be extended. Give him actual money. That's my thoughts on that. L'Jarius Sneed, I think, is gone. He's going to want like 20-something million because he's the best corner right now, and I think, in the game. There's a bunch of other people that you can put in that conversation. Jalen Ramsey, Sauce Gardner. There's a couple other guys who I'm probably missing. But right now, arguably the best cornerback in the game is a free agent. Who will go out and grab him? I don't think it's KC. This man will want money. Who is going to be the one to throw out the money for Mr. L'Jarius Sneed? For the rest of this bunch, who's going to be their wide receiver? I think this team lets go of L'Jarius Sneed, but they go out and sign T. Higgins as his replacement. I think that's the move. So re-sign Chris Jones to real money, sign T. Higgins. Re-sign what else do you need to re-sign? I think it's pretty straightforward for them. If you restructure a contract here and there, so you restructure Mahomes, can't extend that contract. I'm going to save, well, that doesn't help anything. There's not a lot of restructure room actually here. It's going to be interesting. They need to possibly restructure, re-sign some people. Man, KC's in a weird spot. They have two great players up for grabs. One who I think that can really elevate them. Can the world champs make it 3? The 3-peat talks are on. But it'll be interesting to see if all this talk turns into actual success. And on that note, that is the AFC season review and a little bit of talk of, but mostly talk of what these teams can do for the future and what they look like heading into the offseason. Hope you enjoyed this episode, just to give you some perspective on some of these teams heading into the offseason. As the offseason has begun. Free agency starts in just under a month. It'll be fun to break up this whole thing down more in a couple of weeks when we do the NFL free agency preview. On that note, that'll be the end of today's episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If you like what you see, hit the like button down below. 1 like equals 1 less day that I'll be without light in this room. But for now, I'm Robbie Basel saying so long. I'll see you guys Friday. Goodbye, everyone.